Okay, here's an addendum episode. This is 1.1. Thanks to a careful viewer, Bromide01, we just want to touch base and add to the Dragonriders story because this rabbit hole goes deep.
I should mention, Dragonriders was made by a company called DFC, which stands for Dimensions for Children, which to me is kind of a hilarious name. It almost makes me think of banishing kids to the Phantom Zone or something. Or it's I think of Sun's Monoliths and Dimensions album, but for kids. They're a company, I think they're out of New York. I always assumed that Dragonriders was a Canadian thing because I had them, but I never saw mention of them throughout my entire life until probably the last 10 years, maybe. But no, it turns out they are American, in fact.
Of course. Well, sorry this episode looks terrible. It's an addendum episode.
It's an emergency addendum. And apparently I may have trashed the audio on this. So, look, we're just doing our best, guys. We've moved to a secret location for this one because we need to bring you the breaking news. So the Dragonriders of the Styx, we've talked about already. In the comments section of that video, a generous viewer named Bromide01 let us in on some information about the Dragonriders of the Styx, that they were actually sued by TSR, who made Dungeons and Dragons. This is a figure from Dragonriders of the Styx that I had as a child, grew up with. It's a snake creature, which you will notice, maybe it's a bit of a worm, I don't know. It's got this sort of faceless human head, which to me, I always found that to be totally confounding. I didn't know why that was the case, but I was like, oh, that's really mysterious and interesting. So the story behind this apparently is this is what it originally looked like. It had a face. It had ears and details, and what Bromide led us down the trail on is they were actually sued because this guy is basically a straight up copy of the character, the Naga, in the first edition Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual, which you can see there.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Undeniable, I would say.
I would say so too. And it doesn't stop there. There was also these characters that are a visual match to the orcs in the same manual. So down to the shields, every detail the same. It's pretty amazing. Even the weapons are the same. So similarly to the Naga, these were re-released with just straight up their faces shaved off, which we can insert here. A funny solution to a legal problem, I guess. The idea of, I was saying to Adam, why not just cut off their heads and make them headless monsters? That would be pretty cool. But I guess shaving off the face is also a way to take it. It's funny to me that this thing that was so mysterious to me forever was just a cynical corporate solution of avoiding a lawsuit rather than a creative choice. I think that's funny.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious that this is how you solve this problem.
Yeah.
That you start with this sculpt that is just ripping off an illustration in a book. And then you try to sell kids this.
I mean, theoretically, you would get that in a package of a lot of things, so it's not like you would have any recourse after that. But Adam, it doesn't just end there.
Tell me more.
So this is a guy who is only in one set of Dragonriders. If you look at him closely, he's also quite similar to a character in this monster manual called the Shambling Mound.
There he is right there.
That's, again, pretty shameless.
That's pretty spot on. Now, if I'm learning this, I would think, why isn't TSR making their own figures out of these characters?
Right, exactly. Well, This is TSR's Shambling Mound. It's an awesome figure. I love it. But I would say, who is TSR to sue anybody with this thing? Because I think the inspiration for this guy is pretty obvious.
But what came first, a Man Thing or Shambling Mound?
I believe Man Thing. Like, this is, what's the copyright date?
I don't know. Go to the front inside cover.
Because Man Thing was certainly around in the 70s. This says 1977.
This was a time when Dungeons
Right.
and Dragons material was just a gold rush for people to come in and knock off anything in the fantasy world and
Agree.
make as much money as possible. You're right, Man Thing, 1971, Savage Tales, number 1.
So there you go. And I like this is a great book. The illustrations in this, I would certainly assume, have many influences and references that they're taking from. And I'm not, begrudging them that.
I love this guy.
Yeah. All of the more like Lovecraftian weird creatures to me are my favorites. I do love the crudeness of the art of this. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, I could draw that. And I liked second edition way more because it was, more professional.
Yeah. I liked stuff that looked like this. Mm-hmm. Whereas, even though I thought I could draw this or paint that, I don't think I could.
This? Or
I mean,
this?
I could now, but
Yeah.
this is not that easy. It's the kind of thing that looks easy, but...
Well, and we already talked about this, but this is, I think, become a real influence for an almost like naive approach to this stuff that has become quite popular now, where it's the like high school binder style of comic book.
Yeah, the Ben Mara school of art, which is, I'm a huge fan of Ben Mara, and I love
As am I.
everything he does. But it's a body of work that basically had to be reckoned with because there's so much of it. And there's something, man, that hits me on the level of things that the high school notebook level that'll never not be interesting to me.
Yeah, it's like kind of a sincerity to it. Yeah, it resonates. But anyways, so clearly this whole time was quite influenced by two things, I would say. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I think Conan also, like, probably a big inspiration for this era of stuff. So the Dragonriders, my understanding, were the first of the like fantasy sword and sorcery figures of this type. It was a type of toy that was quite popular, in the 70s. More like army man kind of stuff, but they would come with these Playmats that I was saying that these really remind me of the like vinyl Halloween costumes of the time.
It's really something. I've never seen one of these before. I do think it looks both cheap as hell and it's beautiful because
Yes.
it really brings me back to, McDonald's toys.
Yes, exactly. It's basically a glorified placemat.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love all of this stuff. I love the crudeness of it. I like the cheapest possible approach. I don't know. It's just like a charming sort of style of thing. Anyways, so yeah, Dragonriders kind of the first out of the gate to capitalize on this stuff in that style. But recently, I bought these guys, who I thought were just different era Dragonriders. Like, look at that.
Whoa.
Right?
That's literally the same. Like, it's such a ripoff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly the same guy.
Yes. So this is a different company, it turns out. This is Toyco's Dragons and Demons. That playmat was actually from this too. But yeah, a lot of the same like types of characters. Some pretty cool stuff. There's cool monsters. There's a very similar dragon in the Dragonriders line as well. Like everything is just sort of like a slightly altered version. Mm-hmm. But it's quite cool. And so finding this out, it actually took me down a rabbit hole of realizing there were quite a few lines that sort of jumped off of this. I think one of the first ones was Arco's Dragons and Monsters. These guys are Arco. Now, Arco also famous for another line called the Otherworld, which I know you've seen. They're kind of like those bendy guys, you know, that barbarian.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll do a whole episode on that, so I'm not gonna like go down that road too far. But there's these guys. There's, if you recall the movie The Sword and the Sorcerer from the early 80s, there was a line of guys from that really didn't have any relation to what was in the movie, but still very cool. And then there's a really funny version or knockoff by Marty Toy called Warriors of the Galaxy.
Are those lead?
No.
Or plastic?
These are plastic. Now, I'm not as familiar with these.
Now these are called Warriors of the Galaxy, not to be confused with Galaxy Warriors?
Correct. And also, we'll put the logo up for Warriors of the Galaxy. You will see that it's just the Masters of the Universe logo, but it says Warriors of the Galaxy.
Oh, but Galaxy Warriors is also out
I know, it's super confusing. Like, this whole period just seems to be everybody jumping into the pool, trying to capitalize on stuff, and it's all, like, legally nebulous in terms of, what they're doing. So I don't claim to completely understand all of the behind the scenes of this. I just thought it was a really interesting sub-story.
No, it's true. We haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but we're getting further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, the mystery continues for sure.
When you find out that all these things came from one seed,
right?
It's similar to, I remember in the 80s, the ninja craze, and when my brother watched all these ninja movies, and I had distinct memories of different ninja movies and different TV shows, like the Lee Van Cleef show, The Master, or Revenge of the Ninja, or Enter the Ninja. Then years later, when I wanted to revisit these things, I realized every one of these was connected to Sho Kosugi, and Sho Kosugi was responsible essentially for this ninja craze that changed everything and eventually turned into stuff like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever. But it all came from one seed, and I feel similarly about this.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say if you're of our age and we're interested in that kind of stuff, Sho Kosugi is one of the most unsung heroes of action films from the 1980s. I think that guy's a genius. I want to do a whole episode on this era of stuff too, because once Conan the Barbarian, the film, came out, I feel like that's where things really took off. The combination of Conan, Dungeons and Dragons, and Star Wars sort of like coalescing into also Clash of the Titans. I think like it's pretty safe to say that Dragonriders of the Styx, the name, is probably quite influenced by Clash of the Titans, which came out right before this line did. And I feel like it's sort of a combination of that mixed with Dragonriders of Pern, which is an Anne McCaffrey. I'm not even.
I remember her. Dragonriders. There was a series of 3 books we read in elementary school about the Dragonriders.
So you combine the two, that and Clash of the Titans.
And McCaffrey.
Yeah.
There were 3 in the trilogy that we read in elementary school. Man, I didn't know that was connected to this, because that was such melodrama, as I recall.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's like young adult stuff of the time. Those started in 1967, so they predate all of this stuff.
Holy crow, 67.
Yeah, for sure. But I think like this era of stuff, like the sword and sorcery craze of the 1980s, like it was all kind of jumping off of the combination of Star Wars, Clash of the Titans, which itself was like a Star Wars clone, I guess you want to say, or certainly influenced by it. All of this stuff, this is my favorite era of media and, art and figures and things like that. I love it all. This is 70s, this is 80s. I feel like all of this stuff, though, is pulling very much from one particular influence, and that's got to be Ray Harryhausen. This guy is the genius of geniuses. I feel like he's like the Beatles of monster stuff. In a way, like he inspired everybody who saw his stuff as a youth, went on to create things like Star Wars, Clash of the Titans, all of that stuff, which he was obviously involved in. But I think, like, so these Harpy designs.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like, you could see that being a bit of an influence on this stuff.
Can we just cut in this episode to a clip from Army of Darkness of the Harpy that carries the woman away? Because it's awesome.
Okay, sure.
But these are fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this guy, if you're not familiar with his work, which I don't know how you couldn't be, maybe you're, a youth who found this video on YouTube and you're interested, go down the rabbit hole of Ray Harryhausen, because this guy is the best there is. Every one of his films, I would say, is iconic. I don't even know where to begin, but probably just do an entire episode on his stuff as well.
Now, he's obviously inspired by Willis O'Brien, but is he also, like, inspired by John Milton or something like that?
It's possible. He talked about seeing King Kong and it, like, blowing his mind up. So, like, that seems to have been the formative thing for him.
Willis O'Brien for sure, but I'm thinking, like, those illustrations, I didn't see where they were from, but it looked like Paradise Lost type stuff.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, probably. I mean, like, everybody takes influence from, what they came before them. And for, like, creature type stuff, I could see that.
Can you put Dagar back?
Yeah.
It came and went so fast. I just wanted to agree that I loved the era when people were doing so much illustration work and there were so many gouache paintings. And it made me think of this book that you showed me, but that I love so much, which is Mexican Pulp Art. And now it's a bit of a reach because we're leaving fantasy for me to even mention the whole genre altogether. But just this kind of art and the strange things that happen when you go off the deep end with the Mexican pulp art. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's we've talked about this maybe even in the show already, but this clash of, like, a corporate capitalization on interest of the time, and then, stressed out artists being hired to, like, paint something the night before. That creating an entire world of, like, aesthetic and, fantasy and, like, imaginary worlds for kids. It's just such a funny cycle. Like, that this idiotic, faceless snake being the stupidest, like, solution to a problem, then, like, planted the seed in my mind of, mystery. I don't know. It's just, the world's a weird place.
I mean, everything you just said sums up almost all of my interests. The taking an idea, a high concept idea, filtering it through a stressed out, underpaid artist on a deadline, and then shoving it into the very permeable, sponge-like brain of a child.
Yeah.
Like, that's me. And I'm searching always for meaning behind these things and why, and only because they have an imbued meaning for me already. I feel that this stuff is meaningful and in a way that I can't describe or understand. But it's because it was an impressionable time when all this imagery was having its influence on me and you.
Truly. And there's that saying that, like, one generation's limitations are the next generation's aesthetic.
Yes.
It's like, that's sort of where this stuff, led into the next line of the Star Wars and...
Well, I think Brian Eno wrote an essay about that or something. He has a lot to say about that, about the limitations becoming the aesthetics. It's the same with, like, the Grindhouse movie Tarantino made, or the wanting things to sound like they were recorded to tape, analog. And I mean, I totally get it. This is a very strange, detour. But when you overdrive a mic analog, the sound is so much more pleasing to me. Think of old Motown records when drums are being hit really hard or singers sing louder, the sound peaks. It's beautiful. And then you record that same thing digitally and it peaks. and you have garbage.
To us.
But in the next generation,
Exactly.
maybe they'll be looking for
I mean,
that.
like, we're really going on a tangent now, but Kyle Mooney recorded an album recently. And if you listen to it, it's intentionally naive in the same way that like a Tim and Eric thing is. But he's singing songs through what sound like one of those headset mics that you would use to talk on the internet. So it's got all the muffled compression of that, but he's like putting it in the context of pop music, which, it's interesting. I don't know if I would buy a record of that, but it's certainly an interesting approach. And like all of these things, I wouldn't even say that it's just nostalgia that's appealing about it. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying about it, but there's like legitimate pros and cons to everything. Like the approach of putting an album out on vinyl versus CD, it's not one is better than the other or worse than the other. It's just they're two very different things. It's like a book and a movie. Like if you're adapting a book into a movie, it's a totally different medium. So you have to change things. It doesn't make one better or worse. So I don't know. It's just like an appreciation for all of this stuff, really.
I mean, maybe this is just historical now, sadly, because maybe these things aren't going to happen the same way for future generations, and who knows what AI will affect. But I love that somebody had to sit down and paint this, and I love like that title design is fantastic. I love the colors here. That really pops, and I love that. Yeah, that all of this had to be painted by hand. That too. Fun cover. Fun, very silly cover. Love this monster.
Yeah, great monster. But like the juxtaposition of these like really like painterly rendered covers with these sort of almost like cereal box level typography and like these pop colors. When you smash those two things together, it's like chocolate and peanut butter to me.
Couldn't agree more, dude. But all these things that we've shown are beautiful aesthetics.
I think so too. And really, like when it comes down to it, what this show is about is like maybe just trying to be not curators, but appreciators of this stuff that was maybe lost to time a little bit.
I think we're just talking to each other about stuff we think is cool.
Yeah.